Large background stamps are a great time saver for making quick and easy cards. Stampin' Up! Just came out with the lasting linen background stamp. This is the very first one they did in photopolymer. They used to be all cling, but since we're transitioning away from that, and I've played around with it a little bit, and it definitely is a little bit different than using our cling mount stamps. So I want to share with you in this video tutorial my top tips on how to get the best results possible. And I, of course, have two card ideas that I want to share with you. So let's get this out of the packaging. It's our new packaging now in these large sleeves. And there are different ways. I'm sure you've seen how people kind of store these now. I tried this idea with gluing down the sheets here, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that with all of my stamps. But anyways, let's peel that off our sheet here. Oh, and I actually did it the wrong way, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. So now the first tip I want to share with you is about mounting your photopolymer stamp, because usually what we would do is, you can use any kind of large clear block. I have these plates from the Stamparatus that Stampin' Up! Used to carry. But the thing is, you used to just push your cling stamp on there and you're good to go. So that's what I just did there. But let me show you what's going to happen. You can already see here. You're going to have, because you don't have that foam anymore, you're going to have all these bubbles and air pockets in here. So my recommendation when you mount your photopolymer stamps now, the large ones, is to actually roll it on there and then make sure you push out as much of that air bubble or of that air as you can. Doesn't matter if it's straight or not. So you're still going to have some bubbles, so you might have to just pull it back a little bit. You mainly want to avoid that you just slap it onto your block or your stamping platform and have big bubbles in the middle. Okay, so like I said, you can go back in and try and push them out, because what's going to happen is your ink is going to transfer differently. So as you can see, I still have quite a bit of air bubbles there. So, but I think it'll do okay for the video. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could try and just kind of push it down, but the thing is, you're not going to push out the air bubbles really. You're just going to push them around on your plate. So you might want to go back around and just kind of pull that on there. Okay, so now my second tip is also to avoid getting uneven ink transfer is to use your Stampin' Pierce mat, your foam mat, if you do have the Stamparatus, or any other kind of like soft kind of stamping. You can use your Stampin' Pierce mat. So I'm using this one from the Stamparatus, and I'm not going to use the Stamparatus itself because that's not necessary. Okay, so that is my second tip. So make sure you get as many of the air bubbles out as you can. I don't think it's possible to get it like perfectly on there. So, but you just want to make sure that you don't have any huge, air pockets in there. And then tip number 2 is use some kind of soft cushion. You can get away with not using, it's basically recommended for anything photopolymer, but you can get away with it for most images, especially like sentiments. But if you want a nice even coverage and stamped image, I highly recommend using some kind of soft cushion for stamping. All right, so now let me show you the first kind of technique. And I forgot to grab some scrap paper, so let me grab some. Okay. And it can be any kind of scrap paper. As you can see, I've had some quite a bit now. Or I've stamped this one quite a bit with that lasting linen. Okay, so and the first thing I want to show you, of course you could just stamp, as is, but I wanted to show you something really fun. So I have a layer here of basic white. This is cut to 3 5/8 by 4 7/8, I think. But the size doesn't matter so much. So, and I'm bringing in a sentiment first that I'm going to stamp in Lost Lagoon. And since this is just a background stamp, you know, there's no sentiments in there, I'm combining it with the Grateful Blessing. I think this is a perfect match. I designed a whole class that I shared with my customers with the Lasting Linen background stamp and then also another autumn themed one. And this is just perfect for November cards, you know, showing a little bit of gratitude and being thankful. So anyways, for the sentiment, I'm going to grab my Lost Lagoon and I'm going to stamp that right at the top here of my layer. Oop, looks like I have to re-ink my Lost Lagoon. Okay, so oops, that was actually the wrong one. But it's okay. So we'll switch that out. I'll just have to remember to clean it. Okay, so I'm going to stamp that roughly in the middle. Okay, so we can close that. I just have to remember to clean this. So let me just do that right away because I know I'm going to forget it. Because I was going to use that on my second card. So the sentiment I actually wanted to use was the thank you for your prayers. So that's about the same size, so it's still going to work. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some scrap paper and I'm going to tear an edge. You can make it a little bit like up and down curvy. So you just want to make sure that it does still cover your sentiment there. And I hope this is not going to ruin my inked image, but it shouldn't. So we'll see. Okay. Yeah, let me switch that out. So I don't want to risk it. And I do have some more scrap paper somewhere. Okay, there we go. I grabbed some cleaner piece of scrap paper here. So I don't have to worry about that too much. And I'm just going to kind of fold it there. And then I'm going to tear my edge again. Again, you can make it kind of curvy. It doesn't matter as long as it covers up your sentiment. Let's see. So if you're an experienced stamper, I'm sure you know where I'm going to go with this. Okay, so we have our sentiment covered up here. I'm going to need that. And now I'm going to ink up my stamp. Oh, well, you want to make sure that your sentiment is not sneaking out of there when you move it. Okay, now I'm using my crumb cake ink pad. And you don't have to ink up the whole thing, but the majority of your background stamp. You can double check. Okay, you just want to make sure that you cover your stamped area there. Nope, well, let's do it this way so I don't have to worry about the scrap paper too much. All right, I mean, this is just for demonstration purposes. Now, I like to, you can use a block. I know they make special tools for your stamping platforms to rub it over there, but because of our air bubbles, we do want to make sure that we give it an extra rub of that ink. And also, I know some people like to use the sleeve of their shirt, but I mean, if it's hot summer, that may not be an option. So Okay, so we're just gonna go with that, and let me get that out. And now we have our torn edge there, so that's pretty good coverage. So that was idea number one, and let me show you the card that I made with that and how I made it. I could have left that open, but it's okay. So moving that aside for a second, let me show you so you see both. So I took that layer then, my stamped image, and I layered it on some Lost Lagoon cardstock. And I die cut, also from Lost Lagoon cardstock, I die cut these oak leaves. That is from the Label Me Grateful dies. I just tied a bow of crumb cake baker's twine, since that's the color I used here. And then just put that on a card base, 8.5 by 5.5. And yeah, pretty card made fairly easy, quick and easy. And so that was kind of idea number one on how to use your background stamps in a different way than just stamping it. Let's see, do I have my other? So let me share you a bonus idea with you. So here is one that I made. I mean, it's kind of a fun fold. So, but here I stamped the whole image, just crumb cake on crumb cake cardstock, and I used a leafy image there, and I stamped that. That was one of my class cards, and we stamped that on crumb cake and fussy cut it. There's no die for this stamp set. And yeah, so that would be the tone-on-tone crumb cake in like using the background stamp fully. So, but let me show you another fun idea. And it's also a mask. I mean, this is kind of a masking technique with just using scrap paper. But let me show you another fun idea. So we're bringing in our cushion layer, our foam mat. Same piece of basic white cardstock. And I'm bringing in two tools. I have my circle punch here. This is the 2 3/8 circle punch. And then I have our masking paper. Let me pull that out. So, and it just, this masking paper, so the actual masking paper is one large piece, but it is, the backing sheet is cut in half, so it's a little bit easier to peel. But if you use the 2 3/8 circle punch, it's just going to fit right on there. So I'm just going to punch out a piece. That's all we need. And now the tricky thing is to get the backing sheet off. Give me a second here. Of course now. I can't think of the English word. In German we would say Vorführeffekt. Shout out to my German stampers who know exactly what I mean. I don't know how to, demonstration effect, I guess is what we would call it. So the backing sheet, you can get rid of that. And then again, bring in your sleeve because our masking paper is pretty strong. So I like to just like put it on my shirt and pull it off like maybe 2 or 3 times. You don't want to do it too often. You can kind of test it on your cardstock. Oh yeah, you see it's still, oh, okay. It's still a bit too much for my taste. So I'm going to do that like 2 or 3 more times. I mean, the nice thing is you can repurpose this over and over again because the adhesive is quite strong. So let's do that one more time. You can also, if you have like sweaty hands because you're filming a video and not every single detail is how you want it to go, you can use your sticky fingers, or maybe just use, I might have to use my pans. Sometimes that jeans helps a little bit better with. So you just want to make it a little bit less sticky. Okay, now I'm going to place it about in the middle. And as you can see, it's not as perfectly anymore, but that's fine. And let me bring in some scrap paper now. So that's just gonna make it a little bit easier. Okay, I'm inking up my stamp again. Now you want to try and cover the whole stamp. It depends a little bit on how big your layer is that you're stamping on. So, and that's another thing. You want to make sure your ink pads are juicy, or if you want a more subtle tone of your ink, then of course you can use one that is a little bit not so juicy. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring in our stamp and we're going to place it on top. The nice thing now about the photopolymer is that you can see exactly where you're stamping. So let's just use our ink pad here, and I'm just rubbing it over my platform here, my stamp, making sure I can get those air bubbles to not get in the way. And I'll show you in a second what it would look like if you don't make sure you get as much of the air bubbles out as possible. My little failed attempt there. Okay, so we're going to take that off. So, and as you can see, depending on how much pressure you put on there, the nice thing is I do have some spots here, but I don't mind because the whole stamp itself is kind of a grungy look or a worn look. So now you want to peel off your masking tape. So as you can see, it's not a perfect circle like my circle would be, but I don't mind for this particular card. If you wanted to, if you had this actually in a stamping platform and everything would be kept in place, and of course you could try and go back over it again. And to keep it tone on tone, so just to finish this card, I'm bringing in my You're Such a Blessing. Let me make sure all the Lost Lagoon is off there. So I'm bringing in You're Such a Blessing. And what I love about this font, it's so nice and swirly, and it's a little bit angled, so you don't have to get it perfectly straight. And we're going to stamp that right there inside of our circle. Okay, there we go. And then there's this, there's two different flowers, I guess, in this. So this is the outline, and you can even stamp this in a different color as the filling image. And then we have these, I don't know, this greenery grass. So I'm going to use that, and I just wanted to show you a nice fun way to use this one as well. And I'm going to stamp this at an angle. Wow, I got a lot of ink on my clear block there. That's not how you want to do it. So I'm going to stamp that. You can kind of see that swirl of my G here at the end. So I'm going to try and place my leaf right on the edge of that circle. And now this is the reason why you don't want to rock your blocks. Okay, so that's there. And then let me show you the finished card without messing this up. So as you can see, again, my sample here, then I just, again, layered it on some crumb cake, cut to 3 3/4 by 5, and stamped my, my branch here, and then again, use some crumb cake, baker's twine to just add a little bit of an embellishment. And again, just a very quick and easy card made. Let me show you what happens if you have too many air bubbles. Can you see that? That was not, even though I pushed really hard on my stamp when transferring, making the stamped image, I didn't pay attention to mounting my stamp in the first place correctly and trying to avoid all those air bubbles. So that's what these spots are. That's not the way to do it. And let me bring in the other card. Where did I place it now? Oh, over here. So that was my 2 card ideas right here. And let me know in the comments if you have a favorite what of either one of these cards, if there's one you like more than the other. But also share with us how you use your background stamps, or if you have any other tips for using background stamps. Maybe you have other photopolymer background stamps and have some tips to share with us. I would love to read your thoughts on that. And yeah, we're heading into Thanksgiving week soon. But if you still need some inspiration for your Christmas cards, watch this video next, and I'll see you over there.